Right, I'm here in Orlando, Florida, with boxing journalist and commentator Peter Badel. Peter, it's a massive fight for Tszyu this week. A lot at stake. I feel like people are sort of underestimating, Bakhram in this fight. Tszyu's in for a tough fight on Saturday night.
Oh, he certainly is, Macca, and I think part of the reason that perhaps Murtazaliev is underestimated is because he's largely unknown to a global audience, so, and particularly Australian boxing fans. So he can't be underestimated. This is dangerous. He's got power, one punch knockout power, Murtazaliev. But I think Tim learns a lot of lessons from his loss to Fundora, and in many ways I think while a loss can be seen as a denigration for some people, I think it's an elevation for Tim, certainly globally. I think he got a lot of credit out of his loss to Fundora. I think even in America here, Jay, he got a lot of credit from boxing pundits here who really respected his bravery, his toughness, and I think that will shine through in this fight. I think he wins this fight.
What are you made of Bakhram sort of been, he is a champion. I think people forget he does hold the belt. Have you sort of noticed that people have forgotten that? I mean, PBC are backing Tszyu a lot. What do you read into that?
It's a good point. I mean, Tszyu is the challenger in this fight, and he needs to bring the goods, or a loss here for Tszyu is not career-ending, obviously, but it's catastrophic and seriously damaging to his reputation if he loses 2 in a row. So Tim comes into this fight with that burden of pressure and expectation. Murtazaliev, probably given the fact that he's maligned and unknown, can just go out there and throw the bombs that he throws, and I think a desperate man is a dangerous man, and I think Murtazaliev, while he's underestimated, he's got a 22-0 record, 16 knockouts. It shows he's got the power, and he can transfer that power into the later rounds, as he did against Colkane in his last fight when he knocked him out in the 11th round. So I think Tim has to be watchful at all times, because it will only take one punch with this guy, and if he senses blood, then he'll go for the jugular. So Tim must be careful and watchful early.
How do you look back on that Fundora fight? I mean, everyone praises Tim, but they could have kept the belt in that fight, and we could have gone on to, say, a Spence fight in Dallas or a Crawford. How do you look back on that night?
We wanted Crawford, Jay. We wanted the big junket. We wanted the big paydays like Tim. Look, it was firstly an officiating error. I think the referee should have stopped that fight. That was a disgraceful decision. It should have been stopped after 3. However, once we got near the 4th round, I think that the Tszyu corner should have stopped the fight and recognised that cut clearly wasn't going to be salvaged in any way, and they should have gone to the cards after 4 rounds, and we probably get a draw and we all go home and Tszyu retains his belt. However, that didn't happen in the fullness of time. They went the distance. Tim probably backed himself, given the warrior that he is and the confident guy that he is, that he'd get the job done anyway. He didn't, and now it puts him in a dangerous position, because a back-to-back losses in the fight game can be really hurtful. So particularly for a guy like Tim, who wants to be the king of the 154 division, maybe ratings-wise to a lot of people he is, but in terms of belts he's not. So this is where Tim needs to make a statement in this fight, and then over the next 12 months to become potentially a unified champion at super welterweight.
You got a chance to speak to Tim this week. What's the mindset like? How's he looking? You read into any of his mannerisms this week?
Yeah, 2 words for me, Jay: confidence and intensity. I sense there's this fire raging within Tim that is going to explode in this fight. I don't think this fight is tactical for too long. I think it becomes a firefight. I think there'll be big bombs thrown, and Tim's natural inclination is, when he gets into the trenches, he's ready to bang. And I think while he's a beautiful technician and he's got great boxing IQ and he can be very calculating in his execution, if we need to go into the gutter, he's prepared to get into the gutter. So I think this fight is going to be special in terms of the fireworks we're going to see. It may not be the most technically beautiful fight, but I think it goes beyond 6 rounds, because he is a tough guy, Bakhram, and that's when we'll see some sparks flying.
The big news of the day, the cutman, Mark Gambin's had to pull out from the fight. He'll be replaced. What impact do you think that'll have on Tszyu?
It's a fascinating development, isn't it? I mean, for a fighter, your corner's everything, and you've got that trust that you built over 10, 15 years, and Gambit's been there for Tim since his amateur days or his junior days. So I think it's a bit of a blow, it's a bit of a concern, but obviously they now need to find somebody who can get the job done, and Gambit probably looks upon his performance in Vegas against Fandora and thinks I should have done better as a cut man, I should have had the right equipment at the time to get a better job done, if not the job needed to be done to stop the cut completely. But I think over the next 24 to 48 hours, they need to get someone in quickly, because they need to familiarise themselves with Tim Tszyu. They need to get a feel for him and his vibe in the corner. So it's not a massive worry, but something that they could probably do without it at this stage of the preparation.
Tim Tszyu gets the win on Saturday night. What doors open up for him moving forward?
Well, there's some beautiful fights, isn't there, at the 154 division still. I mean, there's still a lot for Tim to do before he moves on to other weights and classes. I mean, we've still got maybe a Fandora rematch, Crawford, of course. There's Ortiz, the fight that could have happened in July, August. Didn't happen due to Tim's cut healing. So there's other great fighters in this division. And even Borichuk's dangerous. He's on the rise. So I like this division. There's probably 6 or 7 fights still for Tim at 154 before he was to go up. But I know there's talk, Jay, about the great Canelo, the Mexican legend. I mean, that would be probably a dream fight for Tim, but he'd have to go up 2 weight classes to do it. Whether he can beat the great Mexican at that weight, I don't know. But it would be a massive money fight and a huge fight in terms of his reputation, his gravitas. So I'd love to see that fight over the next 12 months. Whether it happens, I don't know, but it'd be one for the fight fans to see.
What do you made of the renaissance of Australian boxing in the last couple of years? It's been massive. Some massive names: Jai Pattaya, Liam Barrow, Cambosis, Maloney boys, Tim Tszyu, Nikita coming through. What have you made of that?
It's been magnificent, Jay. It's probably the golden era for Australian boxing. I don't recall this depth for a long, long time, if ever. And Tim Tszyu's been the flag bearer for that. He's been the poster boy. But ever since the departure of Jeff Horn, which was only in 2020, we thought, who would be the torchbearer? Who would be the trailblazer? Well, Tim Tszyu's taken the baton from Jeff Horn, and in his vapor trail have been a magnificent slew of fighters with genuine talent, world-class talent. And in the case of Obataria and Paro, they've shown that world-class talent is world title world-class. And I think there's more world titles from other people. I think Liam Wilson's not done yet. I know he's had 2 failed attempts and he's had heartbreak in Arizona, but he can overcome that, and I think he can win a world title. And even Matteo Tapia, he's another talent. I mean, he's fighting on this card. I think he's the dark horse of Australian boxing. I think he's a beautiful middleweight, potentially a super middleweight. And I think in that middleweight class, which is not stacked, I think he can win a world title.
On the broadcast on Saturday night, what can we expect? You're on there at the great Megan Barnard. Who else? Any other hosts on there? What can we expect on Saturday?
Plenty of good looks and makeup. Jay, makeup for me, Beauty and the Beast. But the great Sean Porter will be joining us Showtime, so he's always good on the coverage to have. He's got great insights. He's a big personality, and we always love to hear what he's got to say. So yeah, it's going to be a great broadcast coming into Australia. So hopefully Aussie fight fans get on board and watch Tim Tszyu, the Tszyu train roll on.
Beauty. Thanks so much, mate.
Anytime, mate.